All right. And we are live. Welcome this evening, everybody. Welcome to Thursday Night Live with One and Done. Um, we just welcome you in this. Come on in. Come on in. Y'all know this is my welcome. Come in the house. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. We want to say before we get started this evening, we want to take the space and time to just say thank you to our supporters. Thank you for those who have showed up on our Tuesday night empowering sessions at Freedom Works. So thank you for that. We would like for you at this time to share this broadcast, share it, like it, comment, subscribe. We have a YouTube page. We have One and Done has a um, Instagram page, and then we're here on Facebook. So everybody go share. I'm going to take this space and time right now to go and share this live to my page. And we do have a guest. So if you want to share it to your page, you can as well. All right.
Absolutely. And, not just a guest, but this is our family here. Alicia, Miss Alicia Johnson. I'll put some respect on your name because your name is due that respect. And we just thank you for allowing us to share the space with you. You are taking time out on your own personal self-care all the way in Las Vegas. Tell us about the weather in Las Vegas. What's going on right now?
The weather, it's chillier than I normally am used to Vegas because I typically come in the summer or late spring, but it's still about 70, 73 degrees. It's a little breezy, so not too bad. It wasn't as warm as it was in Dallas yesterday. It was like 80 degrees, so inside. But the weather is very, very pleasant for this time of year. So yes, and I'm out here for a boxing match, support my friend Showtime Sean Porter and Terrence Bud Crawford. So a big championship fight on Saturday for the welterweight division.
Welterweight division. Wow. Where is this event? Where is the venue going to be for this event?
It's being held at the Mandalay Bay, the Michelin Globe Arena inside the Mandalay Bay. So it seats about 12,000, and I hear it's sold out now. So they're packing out the venue. So yeah, at the Mandalay Bay, and that's where I'm at. I'm staying at the hotel that fight is being held at. And they have the Latin Grammys on here tonight as well. Well, tonight the Latin Grammys, and then tomorrow or Saturday night the fight. So a lot going on.
Okay. Well, great. You're watching a boxing match. Tell us. It's kind of rare. It can be rare, depending on who we're having a discussion with. But why do you like boxing so much? Tell us a little bit about that background.
Okay, so I grew up watching boxing. As you know, my late brother Andre was a boxer. He grew up boxing, and then my grandfather, actually, boxing is just in my lineage. So my grandfather boxed when he was in the military. He was in the Air Force, actually. Fought, some uncles fought, cousins fought. So I just grew up loving it. My mother actually was a big boxing fan, and so she would order all the Tyson fights. And then I remember watching like Marvelous Marvin Hagler versus Tommy Hitman Hearn and Berto Duran, and just a golden era of boxing, Sugar Ray Leonard. So those fights, I came up watching. Now I'm telling myself, I'm telling my age here. 80s baby, but I'm telling my age. But I just grew up like in boxing, and then boxing myself. But growing up boxing, a lot of boys didn't want to hit a girl, so I didn't get as much work as I wanted to, but I was pretty nice. Still got nice hands to this day.
Can we get a little glimpse of those hands?
I got to the body and one to the head now. But I
love it.
It's crazy, but yeah. And there's a lot of women love sports, but not necessarily boxing. So it is a rare space that they like it to the level that I do. But they did love like the Floyd Mayweathers and Roy Jones Juniors and everything. I would see a lot of women at those events, but other times it's very male dominated. So
yeah.
You know, Alicia, I can actually recall our brother, late Andre, Dre Days. He actually introduced me to boxing, and he took me on down to Circle of Discipline on 37th in Chicago. All right,
Mhm.
37th in Chicago. See, I remember there was a brawl getting ready to break out, and I don't really want to tell all the backdrop on it, but there was a brawl getting ready to take place in the street right on 37th Chicago, where the five were run going north and southbound. Okay, and one of the staff people from Circular Discipline says, "Hey man, why don't you young brothers, man, come on into this gym and settle that in the ring, settle that in the ring." And so we put on those gloves, man, and we got to fighting and doing what we got to do. And believe it or not, unlike today, we all live to see another day. All
Mhm.
right, that's not the story. That's not the story with this generation today. They don't even think about throwing from the shoulders. The first thing they want to do is grab a pistol. And so after that day, um, um, my cousin, your brother, he I started sparring with him, working with him right there in Circle of Discipline, and it actually changed my life. And so um, we want to actually get in just a little bit into today's topic discussion that is dealing with a series that kicked off on the 4th, November 4th. Titled "It Impacts Us All." All right, and we talked about the first session was dealing with it impacts us all from a mother's perspective. Okay,
Mhm.
and so we had two mothers, all right, three mothers on the platform, and two grandmothers on the platform, and we had an opportunity to have some great discussion on how it impacts us all, you know, from a mother's perspective. And so on today, we're going to talk about it from a sibling standpoint. You know, how does it impacts us all? And so, for viewers for the first time that are chiming in or who will watch the replay, the it really represents the choices that we make. And so, the last week or whatever, or on the 4th, we talked about a boomerang analogy. All right, when we go ahead and use the boomerang represents, you know, the choices, and when we go ahead and throw that thing on out there and it makes impact with something, it boomerangs on back, it comes on back. All right, and eventually on the way back it begins to just cause confusion, it causes chaos, it causes whatever the outcome is going to be of which we have done. You know, so this evening, as we are going to gear up and wrap up towards how it impacts us all from assembly standpoint, honey, why don't you tell us about what's going on next week? Anything about next week?
Yes, yes, yes. We are celebrating Thanksgiving. So we want to say happy Turkey Day to everybody because you know we go bi-weekly. And so we won't have a Thursday night live. It definitely not on Thanksgiving Day. So we want to make sure that we say happy Thanksgiving. We want to make sure that we say enjoy your families because really that's what it's about. It's about the gathering of people together, you know, your families and spreading and sharing that love. So happy Turkey Day to you all. Enjoy your families and be safe.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I just want to go ahead and throw this out there, and I have to. I just have to, being very conscious. I know that in this Western culture, we say Happy Thanksgiving Day, but the reality of it is, it's Thanksgiving for who?
Right.
Well, we know the history that took place. It's not Thanksgiving for our native brothers and sisters. It's really a time that impacted them the most, of being slain, slew, being ravaged, um, you know, having their land stolen. And it just goes above and beyond language being stripped from them, identity being stripped from them. And so we are intentionally saying Happy Turkey Day, you know, Happy Family Day. Go celebrate your family. Take this time out to go celebrate. But if you can, let us be conscious because we do want this to be a more equitable society that we're living in. We want to see the humanity of everyone, no matter what your gender is, no matter what your age is, no matter what your social economic status is, no matter what your education level is, and no matter what your race is. We are definitely for the humanity of all living. And so, with that being said, We do have a strong woman of God, a strong panelist with us. You know, our family member, our sister Alicia Johnson, and we want to say to Facebook, those who are watching live, help us to give a warm welcome to Miss Alicia Johnson. Thank you for being here. We
Thank
salute you.
you.
I mean, you're on self-care time, and you chose, you know, to be with us this evening, and so you're working, and so we thank you for taking this window of time to be a blessing to someone else on this Thursday evening. You know, we won't do any half of the justice as introducing you. And so we're going to ask that if you would take the time, Alicia Johnson, tell us a little bit about yourself, perhaps your profession, perhaps where you're residing at, what drives you, what's your motivation, what is your passion?
Okay, well, first and foremost, before I get into that, I want to thank the Millers family. I love you both. Thank you. I've known Earl forever.
Forever.
Family. And then I met the beautiful Mrs. Miller only through my friend Keisha Shaw, now Keisha Mitchell, because she's married at True App. We got back to the True App days, and I'm from my hometown is Minneapolis, Minnesota, although I reside in Dallas, Texas, and I know I'm going out of order from the questions you asked me, but I
You're
just
good. You're good.
Let it
I
flow.
gotta give a little background on this. So I come from United Faith Pentecostal Church. Bishop Norman Wesley Parker Sr. still my presiding bishop, although I attend a church in Dallas, Texas, or Fort Worth, Texas, technically, but that is still my home church and my base and my love. And so um, we just, again, it's family all the way around. But now, for all that, so God is good. The connection is still there. The connection is still strong. I'm originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, born and raised, obviously born and raised there. And I am now residing in the Metroplex, Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas area, the Metroplex. I moved, I just took 35W South all the way down. I got tired of the cold weather one winter. It snowed, I think 2015 on Cinco de Mayo, and we had like 6 inches of snow. I was like, this has to be my last winter here. I can't do this because it wasn't winter anymore. It was spring, and we had a snowstorm. So I moved the very next year. It was a little Good Friday 2016. So I've been in Texas because I literally took 35W South down to Texas, and that is where I reside. Currently, I've been in finance. Let's start back
Yeah.
from Minneapolis. After graduating high school, I moved to Virginia to attend Hampton University.
All right.
That's where my alma mater, where I went to college. Came back to Minneapolis, accepted a job at a financial firm. So all of my career, I've been in finance, really. 22nd number indecipherable years long. Well, 22, almost 23 years I've been in the financial industry. I currently work for a wealth management firm, just so wealth, helping the ultra high net worth clients maintain their wealth, and we manage their families' wealth and their foundations and their charitable organizations, things like that. So the day to day operations and finance. So it's very different what I was doing before, which was new business and then eventually divorce settlements, change of ownership, estate settlements, things like that. So kind of the family and corporate law side of it, and then onboarding now to wealth management. So it's just a different level. And it took my knowledge of finance to a different level, not just a day-to-day paycheck and paying bills in growing wealth, but actually maintaining wealth, accumulating wealth and maintaining it. So that's where I am now. So that's a
All
little
right.
bit of like a very, very quick synopsis of my background.
Well, I tell you what, I'm thinking about Jerry Maguire. Show me the money.
Right.
Show me the money.
I'll show you some shit.
Let me tell us, those who are probably going to be watching this a little bit later. We do encourage you to get in the habit of saving. All right, get in the habit of building your financial wealth. If you take care of yourself, if you think take care of yourself from a physical standpoint is important, from a mental standpoint is important, getting your education is important, relationships are important, you know, and saying financial wealth is important. All right, leave a legacy behind. All right, the Bible actually tells us that parents ought to be able to take care of their kids. So that's leaving or laying aside wealth for your grandkids. And so generational wealth is a big thing, and we thank you for that, Ms. Johnson. We want to go ahead and dive in here just a little bit. We're going to be talking about how it impacts us all from a sibling standpoint. And today we're going to use the analogy of the ripple effect. The ripple effect. And so when you're looking, standing by some water, maybe it's a pond, maybe it's a lake, maybe it's a creek, and you just throw a stone out there. When that stone meets that water, it causes a ripple effect. All right. And so the choices that we make that are unhealthy or healthy, all right, those that are tied to us, those who are connected to us, you know what I'm saying, in some shape, fashion, or form, it's going to impact them. It's going to reach them. It's going to touch them. And so yours truly, Earl Miller, has spent 6 years in prison, all right, because of a choice that I've made. And so on today, as we're talking about how not so well choices have impact our siblings, I know that my choices back when I was 20 impact all of my siblings that I had, which was 3 at that time, and 1 is deceased. And so we have today Alicia Johnson with us that also has a sibling who is a close, dear family and loved one to us, who shares a similar narrative as mine, but she was a recipient on how his choices impacted her. Mm-hmm. And so this is a very delicate subject matter. I want viewers to know that this is not just, we're here, we're just having a conversation. No, this is reopening up and rehashing, events that took place in the past that is not so comfortable. And a lot of us, we have shame, we have guilt, and we try to cover up. But we have been mandated, all right, to go forth to hopefully try to mitigate this from perpetuating itself a generation upon generation upon generation. Right. And so I don't have time to hide behind clergy collars. Mm-hmm. All right. I don't have time to be hiding behind my titles and my degrees. And let me tell you, I got several of them. In this Demillis household put together, we have several of those. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about no little degrees either. We got papers, sheepskin. It's real. We have respectable careers. And we could have, and I could have just said, I could have did my time and went ahead about my life. But guess what? I said, no, I'm not going to hide behind that and let people see where I'm at today. I wasn't always who I am today. Mm-hmm. And so we want to encourage somebody. We want to be a light to someone. We want to give hope to a mother or to a sibling who is carrying emotional burdens and distress, to let them know that transformation is possible. And so today I want to ask our family member, Miss Alicia Johnson, as much as you are comfortable with sharing, and I know you kind of touched on some of this in the beginning as we were sharing this on our live. What was it like growing up for you, and what was it like growing up with your siblings?
So my background, it was tough, and I knew I had to build a relationship with God at a very, very early age because of some of the things that we've been through. So if I'll take my brother Andre, for instance. He passed away last year unexpectedly, October 3rd, 2020. So this past October 3rd made a year. With that, we had a loving household, but we didn't have everything we needed at the time. So it was hard having a single mother. We had a stepfather off and on in the home, but it wasn't the best situation to be in. So Dre, he rebelled early on. And I would say, let me just speed up a little bit. So we had a very loving mother who raised us. We were raised in a church. I've been in church my whole entire life, pretty much. I used to beat the pastor to the church. So growing up in church and having that base foundation, but sometimes you stray, especially when life deals a devastating blow that you're not quite prepared for. So I would say we have very traditional roles as a girl. You do this, you wear a dress, you're lady like a boy, you're not supposed to cry, you know what I mean, you rough tombow, shake it off, knock it up. Alicia, you're, should present yourself as a, very feminine, very proper etiquette, and watch how, just how you represent yourself outside of the household. So we kind of grew up with just kind of a traditional roles of how a boy should be versus how a girl should be. And um, I think it shaped a lot of my views and how I deal in general with people and that. But Dre, we lost our mother at a young age. She died of encephalitis in 1992 from a mosquito bite, actually. They call it West Nile virus now, but it was, she was one of the rare cases in 92, especially in Minneapolis or Minnesota, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to put my phone on mute so there's no interruption. You guys don't hear any chiming in the background. But it was very rare in the United States, very rare in the world at that point, but she got a real bite. Subsequently, she was comatose, and it literally makes your brain disintegrate. And most people don't. If you're younger, you have a better survival rate than somebody who is older. And my mother passed. She contracted encephalitis at 34. She passed away at the age of 35. She never seen her 35th birthday in this realm because she was in a coma, but shortly after her 35th birthday, she passed away. And it hit my brother. It hit me hard too, but my brother, and he kind of wowed out. Our whole life was shaken. So we were used to being with a mother to now we're moving in with my grandparents, and then my aunt wants Dre, and my aunt wants me, and then my grandma's like, no, I want them together, and just trying to figure that out. And we're like, what? Well, isn't my mother coming home? I mean, she's just sick, like, so growing up in church, we just didn't understand, like, my mother, she was a tither giver, she served, she sang in the choir, usher girl, you know what I mean? So how does this happen? But you don't rationalize, as a child, you don't necessarily rationalize as an adult would. So Trey took it very, very hard. From that, he joined the gang, just trying to figure out where he belonged. And I got that. He was 3.5 years older than me, almost 4 years older than me. So I was 10 going on 11, and he was already a teen, experiencing different emotions and dating and everything, and then to lose his mother. So he took it hard, and he turned to the streets where I kind of sheltered. But I seen with being in my grandparents' house, they're very, very old. So they were very, very traditional. My brother had his first child was born when he was in junior high. My grandfather said at that time, you're a man, go ahead, you got to get out the house and put yourself as a man. So he just knew the street. It impacted me because they were harder on me, thinking that since Dre went way left, Alicia may veer on that path because they both lost their mother. So I don't think introspectively they could differentiate. Dre made his own choices. Alicia's a lot younger. So they were it sheltered me. They were harder on me. I would say, although I wasn't a bad child, I became a mean person. I was just mean and angry and upset, but I still handled my business. I still did my chores. I still did my homework. I still was a straight A student. I still did things. I was just angry, but again, they were sheltering. So he just took it hard because my grandfather was like, I got to show you tough love. And if you have this responsibility, although he wasn't old enough to technically get a job at 14, because his first child was conceived at 14 years old, my grandfather was like, you got to do what you have to do to support a child now. So you have to leave the house. So he was staying here and there from pillar to post, actually. The impact that had on me, first and foremost, I didn't understand how he lost his mother, and then now he's losing this side of the family because he doesn't have, you're putting them out. So it made me look at my grandfather, although we grew to be very, very close, but I didn't understand, like, you're kicking him while he's down. So I understood why Dre was lashing out, why he was reacting to things the way he was, because he was angry. I'm like, I understand the hurt and the devastation to lose your mother because we're going through this together. But Dre is angry at the world because he felt like he had nowhere to turn. So I felt more compassion towards him, where other people were like, he's just bad. He's going to end up dead or in jail. And subsequently, he did go to prison and he spent some stints in jail and everything. But I felt like he was talented, intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
He just didn't have the support that he needed. And
Mm-hmm.
as a sibling, it was devastating to see not only my mother gone, but my brother not knowing, praying every day, like, God, let me hear from him. Number one, is he going to be okay? They're already saying that he's going to be end up dead or in jail. So please, I would literally plead. I prayed for my brother more than I prayed for myself. I probably prayed for Dre more than I prayed for anybody in my entire life. Even when my mother was in a coma, I prayed for my brother more than that because that's my brother. I love him. I'm there. I'm supporting him. He doesn't have the support system that I thought he should have had at that time. I know that my grandfather grew up in a different era, but to me, it's he's you just put him in survival mode. It's like putting him in the wilderness and he's already lost and confused. So it was always I felt like at a young age I know I couldn't protect him physically, but be his protector, be his advocate, be his voice of reason. So it forced me to grow up more early. I got the first job to help him out financially because I knew he was in the streets selling drugs and doing what he needs to do to survive. But I chose to get a job. Not that my grandparents told me I had to. I was fine. I've had food, clothing, shelter, love, support. They were hard on me, so I couldn't go to parties. I couldn't go to sleepovers. They just didn't play that, and they were hard on me and really wanted to keep me sheltered. But again, I chose to get a job to support my brother. So I balanced school and work, majority of high school, so I could help him out. And then his kids. So it at times it made me angry at him, like, okay, Dre, now you've been out here a while. I'm 15, 16 years old and I'm working to help you out. So it made me a little jaded towards him because I felt like now you're a little older now, that you're 18, 19, you can get a job that may not take care of all of your needs, but at least you should be trying harder than you are. I think that provided a little crutch for him because he always knew until he died that I always had his back, no matter what he needed. I was gonna make sure it
I
happened
think I think if I may, first of all, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Because a lot of the times, society does not understand that things happen that lead up to the outcome of incarceration. And
so.
so a
Yes.
lot of the times they just, saying, see the outcome and
Mhm.
don't really take into consideration what were some of the factors or some of the causes that played a significant role in this individual's life to where they are finding themselves incarcerated. And one of the things that you've mentioned so many powerful things, but one thing that I'm really gravitating to right now is when you lose a loved one.
Mhm.
When you lose a loved one at a tender young age of a child, that's a child. You both were children, and where there's no strong support to be able to show us how to grieve in a healthy manner,
Mhm.
then um, life continues to happen, and next thing you know, we find comfort in intimate partner relationships.
Absolutely.
All right, that's just one thing. We ain't even talk about the drugs and the alcohol and organizations and gangs. We find comfort in the arms of someone else. And in the
Exactly.
midst of finding that comfort in the arms of someone else, we associate or we count that as love. and it may or may not be love, but the outcome now was a life changing effect because a baby now is in the picture. So
Mm-hmm.
now you have the hurt, the pain of losing your mother, you all's mother, on top of a lifetime responsibility, on top of what society says a man is supposed to do as a provider. So now this is what's going on, and then being pushed out by family. So now who becomes our family? The streets become our family. All right? And whoever's going to love me, whether it's true love or false love, that's who I'm going to embrace back. And so now the impact from you seeing all of this, I believe part of it was something we talked about this last week. There's something within the female gender that men don't have. It's just natural to want to nurture. And so you saw the need, and that nurturing side of you reached out and said, even though I should be enjoying my teenage years, I'm going to get a job and be the support or try to be the support for my family member or for my brother that he's not getting anywhere else, with the hope that maybe he'll turn his life around and know that he's loved. Are we correct? Is that kind of lining up, or
Yeah.
no?
No, you absolutely summed that up beautifully. It was exactly that. And at the time, people didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing. They were just like, you're enabling him to be the way they were, because they just seen him again running the streets, getting fighting in school, getting expelled from school, and just they seen the outcome, the product of his brokenness, but they didn't understand that there's a root cause to that brokenness. I feel like it was disjointed and disconnected, even though that's family. You understood that he just lost his mother, but if you don't go through it necessarily, if you haven't been through that, I don't know if you can fully. You may be able to empathize, but you can't fully sympathize with it. Especially so, we came from grandparents and aunts and uncles who never lost their parents or their siblings, you know what I mean, or had a devastating loss like that. So I don't know if they, maybe it wasn't intentionally, but they just didn't rationalize the way I took it. I mean, I could sympathize with my brother because we were sharing a grief experience. And although my grandparents were grieving and my mother's siblings, her brothers and sisters were grieving, and our extended family were grieving, it's different from our lives were changed. They did lose in aspects their lives were changed, but our whole life was uprooted. Everything. It was just like within the twinkling of an eye, our world was flipped upside down. And
Right.
so there was I understood, not, and I tried not to make excuses for him. At first I would. I'm defending, I'm like, well, he just lost his mother. But as the years go on, people don't understand that you're just conditioned now to be a certain way. Although you choose it, and at some point you have to you have to employ wisdom. You have to go through experience in order to gain that wisdom. And if no, you don't have a solid foundation at home teaching you certain things, you're only learning from the street. And although I wasn't in the streets, I understood that he's being shaped by his surroundings. There's no more nurturing, there's only his nature. So when you think about nurture versus nature, he's missing an aspect of it. There's no more nurturing. He's only surviving in nature. You put him in the wilderness, and that's
Right.
a surviving mechanism.
May I write nature versus nurture? I'm just gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna steal that. Hold on. I see Onika is bubbling on the inside over here.
I'm just talking.
No, I was just gonna say, when you were talking about the loss and your family, they were grieving too. They lost their daughter, but to lose a mom when you're still an adolescent, you're absolutely correct. It's a different type of grief.
Yes.
this is the person who is responsible for you, right? And you're left without this person. And so there is a huge void in your life that is not the same as, your grandparents losing their, and yes, they suffered a great loss. They suffered a great loss too. But it's different. The impact of it is different, especially for children. And being an educator, we have kids in our building. Even right now, we're dealing with a child who lost his mom last year, and he's coming unglued. Unglued. And we expect for our kids to go through, they suffer this great loss, and we expect for them to go through life and be, you just got to get back. It's not that easy all the time.
It's not that easy. No,
it's not that
not
easy.
that
That's you actually, I'm glad you picked up on that, because as my wife mentioned, she's an educator, and it's very important for community to be able to see what's going on without seeing. I've got to say that again. I don't mean to get deep on us this evening, but it's important for us as professionals, neighbors, educators, people who are in the field of social work, human services, coaches, advocates, life skill coaches, whatever. I don't care. Adults, period, that have a conscience. Adults, period, that have a conscience. Man, you know what? It goes at, we may think this is a little thing, but it's not a little thing. You could be inside of your local club, and if you see something that looks unhealthy and feel that energy and can identify with it, it's nothing wrong with saying, how are you doing? Good evening. Your day's going well. Just being conscious of your neighbor, because that one greeting, I've done it. I've had encounters with individuals, and they had told me that they was thinking about committing suicide. And they said, because you took the time to see me, it caused for me to want to continue to live. And so I just want to say that it is imperative, because we don't know what someone's going through, what they've been through, or what they are going to encounter, that we start seeing one another, because we may be the instrument that can save someone's life unintentionally. What were you going to say, Alicia?
No, I was just agreeing with you. I think that's spot on. You just never know. A kind word goes so far. You never know what people are dealing with internally. You don't know what happened in their life. Usually people don't lash out for no reason. Some people some days are just bad, but if a smile goes a long way, just acknowledging somebody, saying hello, being friendly, it can mean all the difference to someone. You just never know what people are facing. So we have to be cognizant of that. Like, let me be kinder than necessary. Sometimes I don't know what you just went through. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you're dealing with, but I'm going to pray for you, and I'll earnestly pray for you. And I'm going to say hi. Let me acknowledge you. Let me just say hello. Sometimes seeing a friendly face can talk somebody off the ledge. You just never know how God is going to use you. But if we take the time to be kinder than necessary, we can prevent a lot of hurt. People just want to be seen, want to be acknowledged, want to know that they matter, want to know that God doesn't just have us here to just have us here. That they have a purpose, that they have, their life is meaningful, and no matter what you go through, because as we talked about yesterday, and I talked about this with my brother, one thing that his impact of his life and his death had on me is that God uses pain for your purpose. Anybody who was gifted in the Bible, David, they went through trials and tribulation because it has to birth something out of you. This is a crushing period. You go through crushing. Grapes don't turn into wine until they're crushed. You got to stomp on it. Bring that out. There's something great inside of you. And sometimes it takes that crushing. Sometimes life has a way of humbling down to your knees. Like Abraham Lincoln said, I had nowhere else to go but on my knees to God and pray.
That's it.
It's just it. It brings you to a place of surrender because you have no other. Brother Earl can't, or Minister Earl can't fix it. Sister Onika can't fix it. I gotta go to God. He is my source. And so sometimes God will use that pain to show you that He's the source, that
Mm,
He is your life support. Everything else is a resource, and this life is but a dash. And only what you do for Christ will last. Only what you do for Him will be counted in the end. So during the death of my brother, and God began to minister to me, and I didn't understand. I'm like, God, but He was getting it together. He was working. He reconnected with His children after everything he's been through, and then you took him, and you
mm,
know how, God, why? And I asked, and he began to answer, just pouring into my spirit. He transitioned, and this is, but again, it's short. We're just passing through.
mm,
We are. He didn't die. He transitioned.
mm,
His work here on earth was done, but the impact that he left and the people that he touched just in his journey who came to me. I'm like, wow, his life was meaningful, and he went through a lot of pain, but it taught me to be more tender, it taught me to be more understanding, it taught me to also not enable people to,
mm.
there's a cutoff, there's a point where people use you as a crutch, but you have to know when to cut it off, to say,
Mhm,
no, I'm stepping in on God now. He wants
mhm,
it from you, and if I keep doing from you, you're never gonna get to where God has for you. It wasn't until I said no when Dre started to turn his life around. When I was doing everything, when I was paying rent, meals, helping out with the children, giving him things. He knew that I was going to take care of it. So he didn't have to have that responsibility. I showed that burden for a long time. When I was like, I just can't do it anymore. He got mad at me and hurt it. You know what I mean? And I felt like,
mhm,
God, I shouldn't have not turned him. But what if he turns back to drugs and alcohol? What if he goes back to prison? I'm gonna feel like I was at fault, and God said no. And then I seen God shifted. Things became,
mm,
he got into a program, and he went and got his degree, and he went and got all these certifications, and he was doing well. And that's when God decided to take him. God said no. I was just waiting until he was ready. That was grace and mercy. He's
Sometimes,
been under grace and mercy. I didn't take him in his faults.
sometimes, Alicia, thank you for sharing that. Sometimes we get in the place of God, and God is saying, when you get out the way, then I could do my job. But I don't want to preach that sermon. I want to kind of go back into, you know, what it's like to be incarcerated for those who may be watching or who will be viewing this down the road. I want you to know, we want you to know that it's not no playground. During my time of incarceration, I remember this young kid. He was about 20. So I was 20. He was about 22. And he got raped. He got
Yeah.
raped. And let me tell you, they took pictures of his hindsight and sent them out to his parents and had to lock him in the cell so that he can heal up and recover. All right. Let me tell you another thing. Stabbed in the neck. My first day in the closed maximum, dude gets stabbed in the neck. You see, I mean, it looks like the itchy and scratchy show on The Simpsons. It's just, blood just coming out the side of his neck. About the next week later, somebody gets stabbed in the face. I mean, it can go down. And so, with parents or with siblings understanding the choices that pebble, that splash that water, made the ripple effect, and now it's connecting and causing it to affect us in our lives. How did you, as a sibling, Alicia, knowing that this is a dangerous place and knowing that we go into these places, we have gone into these places one way, but we could come out in the box. Let me just keep it all the way 100 with you. I'm going to keep it funky with us this evening. You can go into prison walking and come out of prison in the box, in a coffin, and be buried. There's a cemetery right next to Stillwater Prison
And
because folk don't got the money and folk don't gave up on their family and they don't want to bury, they don't even want to waste their time. So the folk that die in there, they go to that cemetery. So my question for you, for those who may be who will watch this later, that have loved ones incarcerated, how did you cope, not with, but cope through those emotions while you were waiting to be reunited with our brother, the late Andre?
it was tough. Didn't understand at first when he went, and I was young. I didn't. I was just like, well, Drake can fight. He can handle himself. Didn't know the dangers until he started sharing the stories with me. So again, praying every day, God protect him while he's in there. Let him make the most of his time, just in constant prayer. Like again, I just praying and use worry. That worry never goes away. It's always in the back of your head because I talk to him often. But I could only cope by knowing that one, sending him, we will write each other when he couldn't call. I make sure that I can put money in his books for commentary and then for phone calls. So I knew he was okay. If I talked to him, I know that he was going to call me at a particular time at a day. It's sad because you kind of plan your days around when your incarcerated loved one's going to call you.
Mhm.
It's hard for somebody to have to go through a sibling, a wife, a spouse, children to have to plan their day. Like I know he's going to call at 2 p.m. on a Sunday. If he doesn't call me, something is wrong. And so I'm panicking mode. Is he dead? Is he hurt? Is he in lockdown? Is he in solitary confinement? You just don't know if he doesn't call. So there's always, it creates an anxiety that didn't exist before, another type of anxiety. So it's scary, but we just prayed, encouraged each other. I would send him scriptures, or literally, I would tell you, I would type out sermons. I remember when I started listening to a pastor, you guys are probably familiar with Dr. Jamal Bryant, when he was at Empowerment Temple. So a part of the time that I discovered him, I would listen to his sermons on YouTube, and I would like literally type them out for my brother and send them like this. If it hit me like this, just feeling like I just had to give him the word. I just felt like there was just no other thing that I can do. Say, you're here, you got to serve this time. You're at least, because you're in federal prison, you got to say 35% of your time. So I need to just encourage you in by the word of God. That's all I knew how to do. Financially, I knew that I could assist with things that he needed when I could. Um, Phone calls, but the danger, there was nothing I could do to help him if he was ever in a situation that could have cost him his life in there. So all you could do was pray. All I could do is give it to God and lean on God. And I felt better when I would talk to him on the days that times that I know he would call. And if I did and something happened, or you know what I mean, just that constant communication helped. But it was just you create anxiety. There was a time that I didn't even want his children to know, so the embarrassing things, and I felt bad, and I had to repent for keeping it from them. They were asked about their dad. I'm like, I just haven't heard from them. I didn't even want to tell them that he was in prison because I didn't want to disappoint his children. I felt like not only did I have to protect him, I wanted to protect their innocence. It didn't do it because eventually they found out. But it was a rock and a hard place. Like, I don't want you guys to not have a relationship with him because I feel like it's important. But then he's not there and he's not present. But I want to make sure you're connected to this side of the family. So whatever you guys need financially, just come through me, and I'll just be like, I would be writing my brother's name on Christmas presents and things like that and birthday presents, just so he could have a relationship with them, because I didn't want to feel like he lost all of his family and then he had nobody and he just had me. I'm like, God, you just have to help me through this, because it was a burden I didn't have to bear, but I took it on myself and bear it. I knew if I would have just trusted God, he would have provided. But I felt like, God, you don't have anybody, so I have to do this. I felt obligated to do it. And it felt resentment at points in my life. I wouldn't change being there for him now, especially losing him. I'm like, God, I'm glad I was able to be there for him through God, you using me as a vessel to be there for my brother. But it was taxing at times. There were times that I would push off plans, or I took on a second job at a point just to make sure that I could help provide for his children. At the point, I'm like, you're grown, you're okay. I know you have this amount of money on your books. Now your kids are getting older and they need stuff. So I'm gonna have to pitch in. I gotta create Zaria his group. I need a college fund for her. She's gonna go off to college and she's going through certain things on her own. So let me go ahead and get her college fund. Let me make sure that okay, Dre needs this, Deshaun needs this, Dwayne needs this. Let me make sure. So mine was to fix it and throw cash at it, throw money at it. And it was a lot. I'm like, I could have been further along. I'm blessed, and God has blessed me tremendously. So I don't want to sound ungrateful. He's blessed me with a house of my own, my car, a career. But I felt like I probably could have been a millionaire now if I wasn't just giving, giving, giving. And if you are constantly pouring, it's like who your cup is empty. I felt like at times I was the one and I'm filming, it made me resentful, and God doesn't want you to be that. So it wasn't necessarily me giving with a cheerful heart all the time. I gave with resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And it created a wedge, and I would feel like I was his mom at times. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I want to stop right there. I want to stop right there. Good. That's a good way because I see the hour is already like 10 to 7. And
sorry.
no. This is good. This is good because I want to make sure that we put a bow on this closing
Yeah.
because we've heard a lot of content. We've heard a lot of great content, all right, that we can extract from and apply in our lives, all right? I want to say this to the men that will be watching this, and to the young men that will be watching this. Our women, because they have a nurturing spirit, are going to do things just because it's in their DNA. It's part of their makeup. But there will come a time where they start thinking, man, you need to get your junk together. I love you, but it's time for you to pull your pants up and wear your pants and come on with it. It's time for you to get in your responsibilities. It's time for you to walk in fatherhood. It's time for you to walk, saying as a responsible citizen in community. It's time. And so we have to, it's almost as if, I know you used earlier, Alicia, you used the word cutoff. And I want to say it's not so much cutoff, it's transition because we're transitioning from phases to phases. And the Bible says this, from glory to glory to glory. We can't make it from glory to glory to glory if we in the way of somebody's growth and development. And so I just want to pause right there just for a moment. All right.
Yeah.
And I wanna say this in our closing here. We have community folk that may understand, and if you don't understand, it's imperative that you do, because individuals at about 90% of those who are incarcerated are getting out of prison each year. 90% of inmates who are incarcerated, whether you want them to come on out and believe they deserve a second chance or not, they're coming out. And so if we really want to fight against crime, if we want to try to help change the narrative in someone else's life, right, and you believe in second chance, we have to come together as a community. And so I want to ask my wife on tonight, this evening, what are some things that you think are critical or steps that we can take collectively as a society to receive individuals who have been devastated with life's blows, all right, and now coming out for a second chance? They've been transformed. They just need that support. And how do we also have things put in place as a prevention intervention measure to stop other generations from going into prison? Mm-hmm. So it's a twofold thing. How do we receive those who are being released from prison, and how do we prevent those from entering into prison? Tell us a little bit about that as we're trying to close on out this evening.
So I would say when we receive those who are coming out, that first of all, we receive them with love. And sometimes that means tough love. That means, being honest and not engaging in the what do I want to say? The the word just escaped my mind. In the enabling process, right? And we want to support them, but we don't want to enable, right? Yeah. So just keeping it real and keeping it 100. Like you got out, and so what are you going to do so that you're not going down that same road? What are you going to set up in your life?
What's your plan? Do you have a plan? Let's make a plan.
Exactly. So that you're not going down that same path. Who do you have to eliminate? What friends do you have to eliminate? What family do you have to eliminate?
Family.
So that you're not, yes, family.
Hold on. Keep that family. So you mean to tell me that we not only got to get rid of the unhealthy friends, but some of those relationships might be family members we need to get rid of?
Absolutely.
My Lord, I didn't know that.
Absolutely. Sometimes you got to say to your family, but you stay right on over there because you're not healthy for me. You're not healthy for me. I don't want to, I know when I was living that life and when I was doing the things that I was doing, you and I engaged together. You ain't there yet, I see, but I don't want to be there anymore. So there has to be a disconnect.
Mm-hmm. There has to be a disconnect. And we want to say this though, because everybody changes in their own season and time. So when they have a transformation, we want to be able to pour into them too.
That's right.
What else?
So then as far as not, setting our kids up, and I think about as being an educator, I think about the school to prison pipeline. Yes. And I feel like that's where it starts. We need to start supporting our kids in their youth, in their adolescence, so that school to prison pipeline does not become a thing for them. We have to be pouring into them, and we have to be, as you stated earlier, we have to be aware. We have to be aware of what's going on in our kids' lives. Today we sat in a restorative circle. We played a video, and in the video, all of these kids, they were coming into school, but what was on there was like words on them, and it would say, "This student is homeless." So they were just walking in, and it would say, "This student is homeless. This student lost their mother. This student didn't have a meal since their last meal in school." Like all of these things are happening to our kids, and not even our kids, even the adults. All of these things are happening, and we just need to be aware and pour into them. Don't just overlook the signs. Pay attention. Pay attention to what's happening. Pay attention. Kids aren't acting up to act up. Sit them down and ask them some questions. What's happening? What's happening at home? Talk to me.
Good, that's good.
Take a little time.
And you know what too? I want to say this too. Because our systems need some reformation. So while we are paying attention to these signs and reading the messages on these signs, is not to use a punitive approach, it's to use a restorative approach.
That's right.
All right. Before we call child protection services, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. I'm gonna park the car right there. We ain't trying to do a punitive approach all the time.
Yes,
we try to do a restorative approach sometimes. What else? Absolutely.
That's all I kind of have to say. I feel like it begins in the child's youth, in their youth. And I feel like education is kind of a place where we combat that and curve that. And yes, there is a lot of reform that needs to happen in education, but I think it takes a body of people who care. I think it takes a body of people who are aware.
Absolutely.
It takes a body of people who want to connect with kids. I was sitting here as you were telling your story. What would have happened, right? If Dre, right, had people in his life at the time of his trauma that would have
loved on him, embraced him,
and not said, "Oh, you had a baby and it's time for you to be a man." No, you a baby having a baby. So how do we gather around you to support you and the baby?
Because not enable, but actually help the plan so that you can walk on out and take serious some responsibility.
That's right.
We're pushing that.
That's right. So what could have happens if he would have had the correct support. I think that's where we need to start. That's where we need to be.
Yeah.
Right. All right. I know you're in Vegas. Thank you, honey. That's well said. I know you're in Vegas and you're looking for a great time here. Come on, Miss Johnson. There is probably, if there's a young woman who is going to be watching this, and what would you say to the young woman who's a sibling that probably either has a father, a mother, or a brother, a sister, auntie, uncle, anyone, possibly even a friend? What would you say to them to encourage their heart while coping through emotions and mindsets while they're incarcerated? And here's the second part. If you can tell the child, Alicia, something to encourage her, what would it be? So first, I want you to tell us, what would you tell in about 2 minutes? What would you tell someone who, that young lady who has a sibling who is incarcerated, is filled with all these gumbo of emotions and thoughts, right? While their loved one is incarcerated, what would you tell them to encourage their heart? And then the last but not least, what would you tell the Alicia who is probably in her early years of teenagehood? What would you tell her to encourage her heart?
Great questions. I would tell someone, love with all your heart. In order to be forgiven, there has to be an exchange of grace. You have to remember to give grace as God gives us grace and mercy, and we want those. So just try to be understanding. You may not like it, you may not like what they've done, but we don't always like it. We can't dictate somebody else's choices. All you can do is be supportive, be a listening ear, but you don't have to shoulder the burden alone. Know that God is for you. God sees. God knew what they were going to go through. God knew the path that they were even going to choose. It was not your fault. You can love a person, but sometimes you have to love them from a distance. You can't be everybody's all. You're not God. So don't step in God's way. Help when God, if you're unsure of what to do, you got to go to God in prayer. If you don't understand what's going on, or you feel, to reach out to somebody who's been there. How do you do? Everybody copes with things differently. We're not monolithic. We're all individuals, and we all handle grief, trauma, stress differently. So whatever it does to get you in a better frame of mind, you can't be good to somebody else and be there for somebody else if you can't be there for you in supportive of yourself. So take time for self, number one, and then again, extend grace. There has to be an exchange of grace. So you can pray for them, forgive them, and all you can do is say, even if it's just, I love you, I'm sad that you're there, but I'm praying for you, and earnestly, and pray for them, or just be there and I'm here to listen if I'm able to. But you got to take care of self. So self-care is important. So I would tell somebody that, encourage yourself at times, whatever it is, read, meditate, listen to music, listen to a sermon, listen to whatever it does so you can get your mind into a better space. And just whatever you're learning at that time, share with that incarcerated loved one. Share what your day is. This is how I cope. Hopefully this helps. If there's a scripture you read, if there's a message on a bottle that you've seen, if there's something that you pick up, just share. When you pour into people, they understand that you care and that you love them and that you're willing to pour into them. So I think that's as much support as you can give at sometimes. So what I would tell the childhood Alicia is to learn how to not step in God's way. Allow God to be God, because people will get together. He knows how they made it. He knows what they're going to go through. He knows exactly how he's going to get them out of it. There's not a single situation. If God has no respect of a person, and if he gets you out of situations or helps you through a situation, he's going to help them through it. So you got to understand that. I would say, Alicia, one, it's not your fault. Two, take care of yourself. You can only do so much, and be honest with people. Be honest, be upfront, and say, I'm only going to do the set boundaries. Just set proper boundaries. And if they don't respect it, then you've done all that you could do at that point. So that's what I would tell my younger self. I should have set boundaries. And then he could have thrived. I stifled some of that growth.
Mm. Well, there you have it. Facebook Live, YouTube. You and I, we all have heard it from Alicia Johnson. It impacts us all from a siblings standpoint, from a siblings perspective. We thank you, Alicia Johnson. We know that you are in Vegas right now. You are preparing for the fight. You are enjoying that nice weather while we up here in Minnesota freezing with blizzards. And so we want to ask you to go to the YouTube, one and done YouTube, subscribe, go to IG, Instagram, and follow us along this journey. Journey with us. Go to our Facebook page, and journey with us on Facebook also. And if you know of anyone that can use some services, maybe a mentor, maybe some, I don't call it case management planning. I'll call it the game plan, the playbook. All right, I'll call it the playbook. That is telling you. And I'm also just in case somebody too much. I call it the playbook because I used to start to get college football letters my sophomore year in high school, and I was put on the freshman on the varsity team as a freshman, and so it's part of it's part of my football, and I don't call it case management. I call it the playbook. All right, and so what that is really is tailoring, saying your own plan for success in reaching your goals, whether that's in academia, whether that's in employment, whether that's going into entrepreneurship, maybe you're talking about faith, whatever you want to talk about, we're going to do it. And you are the professional, and we're just here to support and walk alongside of you. That number is area code 612-400-4046. Let's get it rocking and rolling. Maybe you're a mother and you want your child to reach on out. Give us a holler. Maybe you'd like to do an email, info@ondusa.org, info@ondusa.org. Visit our website, one and done. Go to I'm old fashioned. I'm young, but I have an old spirit. Maybe you like to still write. P.O. Box 32212, Fridley, Minnesota. P.O. Box 32212, Fridley, Minnesota. We love you. We thank you for your continual support, and we say God bless you in Jesus' name.
Thank you.
Peace.